The title of the course is America from 1945 through 1960. Were these the good years? As the question suggests, the answer to this question is mixed. For some Americans, these were very good years. There was strong economic growth, there was little inflation and low unemployment. The gains from the economic growth were widely shared. Strong unions produced middle-class jobs that paid reasonable wages. There was much less income inequality than there is today. There was also political consensus during this period, which meant that the reforms of the New Deal would be preserved, but would neither be drastically expanded or curtailed. But for some Americans, these years were not so good. They were not good for African Americans who suffered the Jim Crow system in the South, and in the rest of the country suffered from private discrimination and systemic racism. The 50s were not so good for women who aspired to many types of professional jobs, such as doctors and lawyers. The 50s were not good for gays who had to remain in the closet or risk personal and professional ruin. The 50s were not so good for the 25% of Americans who were not sharing in the general prosperity and were living in poverty. We'll be exploring the experiences of all these groups during the 40s and 50s. We'll also cover foreign policy. After World War II, the United States became engaged in a worldwide conflict with the Soviet Union and Communist China. That, of course, is the Cold War. Our worldwide involvement was a major change in the historic role of America in the world. Before World War II and peacetime, we were only involved in a big way in affairs in Latin America. The Cold War was complicated by the development of nuclear weapons, which meant that a dispute could escalate into a nuclear Armageddon. Finally, we'll be covering in depth the Red Scare and McCarthyism, which was prevalent in America during these years. Under these events, thousands of Americans lost their jobs because they were suspected of being communists or communist sympathizers. Often the charges were based on things they had done during the 1930s, when there was a very different relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union. Major areas which were affected were the entertainment industry, and jobs in government and related defense contracting, and jobs in education. Not only did thousands of Americans lose their jobs, but many more Americans were discouraged from participating in political debate, particularly in making controversial statements which could be perceived as communist sympathies. The 50s has been an interesting period for me to examine. I was alive and somewhat politically aware during this period. It's very interesting to see what historians have learned about the period and how it's fared in perspective of what's happened since. I'm looking forward to sharing these thoughts and what I've learned with you. Thank you very much.